911 dispatchers routinely deal with crazy calls. An Oregon woman who tried to track down a cute officer for a date. A Florida woman angered that her local McDonald's was out of McNuggets. And an Ohio father who called about a messy bedroom his adult son refused to clean. Unfortunately, that's not the worst of it, because the life-saving 911 system designed to help us in a crisis now faces its own crisis. NBC Atlanta, January 31st, 2015, uncovers that in less than a decade, the 911 system has gone from tracking 4 out of 5 emergency calls to now locating only 1 of every 5, forcing David Simpson, chief of the FCC's Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau, to admit this puts lives at risk. Georgetown University professor Jose Cuesta blames the malfunctioning dispatch system for the death of his 18-month-old child because the closest paramedic couldn't be sent, stressing in the March 24th, 2015 Washington Post, "That cost the life of my son." While Congress created 911 because it recognized the critical importance of protecting public safety and security, its 1960s technology is tragically obsolete. And so to save lives in the future, we must repair what's broken and save 911. First, we'll dial in on the problems plaguing 911. Second, we'll review hang-ups causing the system to fail. And third, we'll answer the call with solutions for what the FCC calls a vital part of our nation's emergency response. 31-year-old Chanel Anderson lost control of her SUV and drowned in a pond because 911 couldn't locate her for 20 minutes. And the same danger awaits any of us desperately seeking emergency help. USA Today, February 22nd, 2015 reports that 911 only has a 10% chance of getting a quick fix on your location. And surprisingly, the most afflicted area remains the world's technology capital, Silicon Valley. Although Facebook or Uber locate you immediately, 911 location failings include Denise Lee, who in 2008 dialed 911 from her kidnapper's car in Sarasota, Florida, before being raped and murdered. Or lung disease patient Carol Allette, who in 2010 bled out in Cortez, Colorado, before an operator could find her. On May 1st, 2015, from the Montana's governor's office, Sheriff David Shore warns it's now easier than ever for victims to reach 911, but harder for responders to reach them. While dialing 911 from a landline instantaneously identifies your location, cell phone calls have a convoluted route. The Palm Springs Desert Sun, February 24th, 2015 outlines that a 911 cell phone call sends a signal to the closest compatible cell tower, perhaps miles away, which contacts its local dispatch, which then attempts to triangulate the caller's coordinates. Because locating a caller could be off by a few miles or impossible, Newsweek, April 17th, 2015 cites an FCC study, which estimates that over 10,000 Americans die each year because of 911's fatal flaw. Creating even more complication for 911's legacy landline system, Fortune, July 17th, 2015 notes that 70% of 911 calls are made from cell phones. Every hour, American 911 dispatchers receive over 27,000 calls from cell phones. Since every second saved on a 911 call could mean life or death, Jamie Barnett of the FCC's Public Safety and Homeland Security Division echoes distress from dispatchers. "I'm tired of people dying because I can't find them." As water rushed into Chanel Anderson's SUV, she naively believed using her last breath calling 911 was her lifeline, much like tragedies caused by ongoing citizen ignorance, a 20-year legislative loophole, and caller misuse. Although Public Enemy's 1990 landmark hip-hop song, 911 is a Joke, called out slow 911 responses in Black neighborhoods, many assume the system now instantly locates callers anywhere. But the 911 Colorado Foundation divulges to NBC Denver February 23, 2015. The system is not reliable as people think. There's an assumption we're living in the age of the Jetsons, and we're not. After 6 hours locating a man without water and trapped in his car by snow, Boulder, Colorado 911 Director Steve Silverman concedes it's a needle in a haystack. Additionally, this tragic uncertainty began in 1996 when the FCC issued flawed regulations requiring wireless carriers to locate cell phones in an emergency. Written largely by cell phone companies, the rules have been fought and delayed almost 20 years, as CBS Tampa Bay February 19, 2015 reveals that the FCC aided compliance by using only test data, not real 911 calls. And while more than half of 911 calls come from indoors, the rules only apply to outdoor calls, as AT&T discloses to The Verge January 25, 2015. Tracking indoor calls is a waste of resources. Finally, caller misuse strains the system, like pocket or butt dials, which sounds like pains in the butt, literally. But for 911 dispatchers, they are figuratively. CNN October 5th, 2015 exposes that up to 50% of all 911 calls are accidental, with a 28% increase over 3 years, demanding operators verify emergencies and frustrating and time-consuming return calls. As it depletes morale and raises costs of 911 services, FCC Commissioner Michael O'Reilly laments, the risk is that legitimate calls and first responders will be delayed. Chanel Anderson was found unconscious and died 2 weeks later. However, solutions exist for individuals and legislators preventing similar tragedies. First, although 911 locates landlines, dispatchers still ask, "What is your address?" So we must always know, especially on a cell phone. If possible, we should avoid calling 911 from a cell or cable TV phone. And the Minnesota Star Tribune, March 16, 2015, recommends POT in our homes, POT, their acronym for plain old telephone, which requires no electricity. We can prevent tragedies like South Carolina's 71-year-old Joan Lance, who dialed 911 from a cell phone, leading to a 45-minute door-to-door search before officers found her clutching her phone, deceased. Second, we must advance concerns shared by firefighters, police, the elderly, and deaf, that wireless carriers enable emergency workers to locate people anywhere indoors. The Center for Public Integrity, September 29, 2015, acknowledges that wireless carriers spent millions lobbying the FCC to shift the cost and responsibility to Wi-Fi routers. Still not found in almost 1/3 of the country, abandoning the elderly and poor. Because we would suffer that same fate during electricity interruptions, we must demand each of our cell phone companies stop refusing to spend just $25 million annually to upgrade existing cell phone tower location services. Third, if we're one of the 84 million accidental 911 calls annually, we should not hang up. Instead, verify it's not a real emergency, saving operators precious minutes for calling back. Along with logging our phones, we can download later this year Harvard and MIT alumni-produced app, Rapid SOS, which the New York Times September 30th, 2015 heralds can send data like a landline. Rapid SOS transmits location, emergency description, allergies, and blood type, what 911 Dispatch Director Steven Souter calls a gigantic step forward. First, we called out consequences of an out-of-date 911 system. Second, heard why progress has been put on hold. And third, offered solutions so we can dial with confidence. Although it's fallen woefully behind, 911 can become a lifeline we trust again. Hip-hop icon Public Enemy's Flava Flav once rapped that 911 is a joke. While he did look like a clown, his sage lyrics did raise social consciousness about poor emergency response for urban communities. While we need not wear his giant clock, it's time for our activism so 911 can evolve from joke to change.